back at the AAPOR conference with Reg Baker, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Market Strategies International and also the chair of AAPOR's online task force. So first, tell me what that online panel task force. There's a lot of talk about online panels at this conference, and so tell me what the task force is and what you're doing.
Well, the task force is an attempt to recognize at long last on AAPOR's part that online is a absolutely huge part of the survey research going on, both in the U.S. and in the world. $2 billion in research in the U.S. online in 2008. And that it's really time to provide some guidance to the membership on the issue of what this phenomenon is all about, what it says in terms of traditional ways of doing surveys, what about claims of representativeness that are made by online suppliers, and to really answer the question of are there times when online is an appropriate methodology for a particular kind of study, and how should you go about evaluating the various options out there in terms of online sample providers.
Okay,
so that in a nutshell is what
let me ask something specific. So many of our readers, we see online surveys, including those provided by interest disclosed here. YouGov Polymetrics is a major sponsor of Pollster.com. But we see internet polls. How do we evaluate their quality? I think that's something we're all sort of grasping at.
Yeah, so I think like any form of research, including traditional probability-based methods, it all comes down to transparency and disclosure about exactly how a given sample was put together. When we use the word representative, what that means, and just in general ways in which the research was conducted, just as we would with any kind of probability-based method.
So what are some of the things that we should be asking for? I've gone on at length about on Pollster about likely voter screens and the things we need to know. What should consumers of online data collected online or about surveys generally, to the extent it's common, be asking for?
Well, SMR, the European group, has 26 questions.
And that's just for those who don't know. SMR is...
I don't know what it means, but it's been basically the European Market Research, which now thinks of itself as the World Market Research Professional Association, as opposed to a trade association like CASRO. But actually has 26 questions that they suggest you ask an online series of online sample providers. And it runs from everything about how the panel is managed, how the panel is recruited, what kinds of limits are placed on participation in surveys, how they validate who it is, who are people indeed who they say they are when they join a panel. So there are a whole lot of issues that need to be considered, but arguably for a lot of the research that we do in places like AAPOR and a lot of the higher quality market research that's done, you need to ask the same kinds of questions you would ask of any researcher, which really gets down to the issue of how do I know that the sample you're providing to me is indeed a good sample of the target population for a particular study.
Are you feeling optimistic about our profession's ability to come up with a set of best practices, either for measuring that quality or disclosure?
Well, the term best practices is a loaded term.
Okay.
So I don't think we're ready to go there yet. But I think, as to reference the plenary session last night, where you had two fundamentally different views of where the industry's headed, and my reaction to that last night was that I agreed with both of the speakers. And I think what we have to recognize is that the terms of doing surveys have changed dramatically, and that we all know the problems of declining cooperation, rising costs, the whole problem with cell phones, contamination of the telephone frame, all these sorts of issues. And there's just going to be a different way of doing this kind of work 10 years from now, or even 5 years from now, than what there is at present and what most of us have done over the course of our careers. So I think what we're trying to do here is we're trying to start to chart that course for the membership in terms of where we need to go, recognizing how the world has changed, how people communicate has changed, how the sources of information we have available to us to do research and trying to solve problems, whether they're the kind of market research problems I solve in my business, or whether the kind of public policy problems that a lot of folks in AAPOR are used to solving. We're just going to have to go about that in a much different way going forward than we've gone about it for the last generation.
Okay. Reg Baker, thank you very much.
Thank you.